Okay, so if you have your notes out, you can kind of follow along with the notes and what I'm going to explain right now. So we're going to start talking about quadratic equations. So far, all we've been doing is factoring, and everything that we've been doing have been expressions. There's been no equations in those. How do I know that it's an equation? It has to have an equal sign. So a quadratic equation is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. In fact, this is considered standard form. We always want to make sure that we put it in this form if it's not in this form to begin with. This piece is called the quadratic term because it has the x squared. This is the linear term because it has just a normal x, and c is our constant, okay? First thing that you can tell by looking at a quadratic equation is whether or not your parabola is going to be opening up or down. So if you didn't know that, x squared equations or quadratic equations always make a parabola. So it's like either a normal U or an upside down U, okay? And in order to know if your equation is opening up or down, it's very easy. All you have to do is look at the A. If you have it in standard form, the first term, if it's positive, so if A is positive, you know that your graph opens up. And if A is negative, you know that your graph opens down, okay? Couple terminology pieces here. This piece is called the vertex. Okay, so the middle or center point where everything meets is called the vertex. If your graph is opening down, that would be considered a minimum value because it's the very bottom of the graph. And if it's opening up, then that would be considered, I'm sorry, I think I just said that backwards. If it's opening up, that would be considered a minimum because that's the very bottom value. And if it is opening down, then that would be considered a maximum because that's the very top value, okay? Then we should also know how a terminology called the line of symmetry. So our line of symmetry is the line that goes through the center of our vertex, and it splits our vertex in half. If I were to fold it over, they would go right on top of each other. They would reflect over that line, okay? And then you'll notice something that tells you the equation of a line of symmetry. So a line of symmetry is a vertical line, which means it's an x equals equation. Remember, vertical lines have an x equals equation, okay? And the way that we find them is with the formula negative b over 2a. So that comes from this a, b, and c. So we will use this to find our vertex, okay? And then once we get that, then we'll be able to actually, this will be our line of symmetry, and we'll be able to get our vertex with it by plugging in x into our equation. Okay, so we'll do an example in just a second.